What is the most outlandish, hilarious, surprising thing you have ever seen go down in public? Our neighbors back at my old house were deaf and mute. Not to mention, they weren't good people. They turned their property into a giant junkyard filled with pot and abused animals. But they did the funniest ducking thing one day. One day while they're gone, a man in a truck comes up with a hay bale. He walks into their driveway a bit, got a disgusted look on his face, and then set the hay bale in the driveway. A few hours later, our deaf neighbors come home, and they see the hay bale. They all look at each other really confused. And then all at once, they look down the road. Then, all at once, they all look up the road. Then, all at once, they all look straight up into the ducking sky. I was driving out in the boonies and I saw a man towing a late 80s Honda with another late 80s Honda. Now this wasn't such an odd thing to see in the area. If you couldn't afford the tow truck, you just got a buddy, some rope and another car. As long as you always braked carefully and slowly, the guy behind could also brake. And the bumpers would only touch a bit. There would be some scratches, but nothing you couldn't live with. This man was doing this task solo though. Also not unheard of, but it just requires even more caution with braking. Brake slightly so the car behind you contacts the bumper, and then slowly apply the brakes even more. I'm not sure how long the man had been doing this for, but he was going about 45 miles per hour. So he must have been pretty confident in his abilities. However, when the deer leaped out into the road, his reflexes took over and he slammed on the brakes, leaving the second car to slam into his first car. He was fine and missed the deer, but both cars were totaled. TLDR, man rear-ends himself with his other car. A chick got arrested at a concert because she was blowing random guys. I don't think she was drunk or on drugs, but she would just go up to a guy and unzip his pants and pretty much suck his big dick and spit out the load. A few minutes later, she'd go up to another guy until 40 minutes later 3 police officers came and arrested her after people were complaining. I worked at check-in to cash for a little while. I was running a field call. That's where I go to the people's house to collect the money when they were late or skipped out. Anyways, I went to the projects. I turned a corner and the next thing I know, this skinny black chick falls out of the window with no cloths on. Shortly after that, a big black lady comes out with a toaster and throws it at the naked lady running away. A skinny white naked dude comes flying out of the house as well. The big black lady turns around and kicks the white dude in the nuts. Everyone went back inside. The lady I needed to see was directly above them. Laughing, she says, "That happens all the time." I was walking into Rite Aid to buy batteries. As I walk in, a homeless man slinks in behind me. We both walk to the right and he turns in the snack aisle. The batteries were perpendicular to the snacks. All of a sudden I hear multiple footsteps behind me jogging to where this homeless man is. I turn around and see the homeless man, now shirtless, ripping bags of peanuts and throwing them in the air, and 2 store employees trying to subdue him. As they finally struggle to pin him down, he begins to yell, "I regret nothing," just repeatedly yelling it as he is dragged out of the store. OP. That's about the funniest thing I've read on Reddit. Pound for pound. Pissed off primates are the meanest things around. Me and my brother were sitting on a bench waiting for the subway in Boston. Then, out of nowhere, the little old Asian lady sitting next to us ripped one of the loudest ducking blasts from the ears trumpet that I have ever heard. My husband and I were in a mall in the DC area in the early 90s. At that time, Mary Lou Retton was hyping Tyson chicken products near the mall food court. We took a look. Oh, hey, that's Mary Lou Retton, and walked past. Out of a service store comes a man in a pretty shitty looking chicken costume being led by a girl in tie-dye and dreadlocks. Sensing epic misfortune about to unfold, I grabbed my husband and we follow them back to the food court. Sure enough, the chicken throws a water balloon or something filled with red liquid resembling, might have actually been, blood at Mary Lou Retton and her crew as they are frying up delicious Tyson chicken in front of a crowd of soccer moms and their kids. The girl shouts something about Tyson being serial murder hers, and in an instant the chicken is underneath a large security guard. As they are leading the chicken away, his girlfriend is shouting, "Don't hurt him. Stop choking the chicken." I think I saw a fat chick fight club one time. I live in a pretty small town and we have a local grocery store. I was driving home one night about 11 and passed by said grocery store and noticed a bunch of the local country hicks had their trucks in a semicircle with the headlights on, and in the headlights were these two very obese women just going at it. Like clothing ripped and just beating each other. It was the strangest thing. Posted this a little while ago but it got buried pretty good. I was shopping for shoes with my mom in JCPenney's when I was about 14. I was trying a pair on when some random kid walks up to me and starts beating me with Elmo slippers. Then he walks away like nothing happens. Edit. Guess it didn't get buried as bad as I thought. Sorry guys. Comma. Saw a homeless man park his shopping cart between two parked cars on the side of the street. Then he walked out into the middle of the 4-lane street and took a sheet. I was waiting for the bus and a couple were arguing extremely loudly, then the girl screamed, "No, now for you tonight," before storming off. I almost died laughing. The best part is she sounded furious and was totally serious. Got out of a movie in downtown Paris Sound. All of a sudden a snowball fight breaks out between the moviegoers and the bar across the street. Had to be a good 20 to 30 people tossing snowballs across the street. People were using parked cars for cover and sneak attacks. People who weren't involved would get hit and join in. My girlfriend at the time was hiding in a storefront door when some old man threw a snowball right at her face. This went on for over a half hour. Even cars that were driving down the street were getting pelted from both sides. Hahaha, it was the greatest random occurrence I've ever experienced. I was doing some window shopping on Upper Street in Islington, London about 4 years ago. It was the middle of summer and I was just passing the time going from shop window to shop window. I'm looking at some boots and my attention is grabbed by the reflection of a young, long-haired blonde guy around 20 years old who all of a sudden looks physically stressed. I turn around and he's blocking the path of our old man. The old man is wearing some old-fashioned hat and has a grey beard and looking equally stressed about this kid not letting him pass. I'm just about to tell the kid to stop being a big dick and get out of the way. 2 or 3 other people have now stopped around us as it's a quite an odd looking scene, but all of a sudden the kid finds his voice. With tears in his eyes he says, "My name is Julian Flo. My parents are something and something, Flo. Your name is," I can't remember what he said. "My parents are deaf and when I was a kid, you babysat both me and my sister. You sexually abused us both for years and I never thought I would see your face again. There is no way in hell I am letting you pass me this time." The old man insists the kid has the wrong eye. The small crowd start to circle them both. Some extra people have now joined after hearing the speech. I think some guy says to the old man, "If you're not who he says you are, just prove it. Take out a credit card or something." The old man refuses. I start to walk away from the crowd as one of the passerbys says, "Well, you're not going anywhere until the police turn up," and calmly holds the old guy by the arm. A man was walking down the sidewalk like a chicken, strutting and flapping his bent arms. I ducked behind a building to avoid interacting and waited a while until I figured he was on his way. When I peeked around the corner of the building to make sure he was gone, there he was posed on one leg with one of his wings behind his head and the other tucked under his armpit. I really went the other way then. It was a public enough setting that I wasn't in danger. I wonder now why he wasn't making clucking sounds. The most hilarious thing that I can recall is related to monkeys and a dog too. I was in India at that time and back in my school. Students living in the hostel dorms used to have the breakfast from the canteen during the winters and eat outside on a sunny day on set fixed chairs and tables. Most of us used to throw the yellow part of the boiled eggs on the ground, leaving a competition between monkeys, stray dogs and crows to grab those. Usually dogs used to dominate in this fight, and of course monkeys were badly pissed at this. One day, Me with 3 of my friends was having breakfast and saw a group of 6-7 monkeys surrounding a sleeping dog. One monkey pushes the dog, and as soon as dog takes his head up, all the monkeys slapped him one by one, taking 2-3 rounds. Before the dog could realize what happened, all monkeys were gone and the expression on the dog was like, what the hell just happened? Whenever I think of that, still make me chuckle. I got beat up in grade school for touching a kid's bike. I had never touched anybody's bike and didn't know the kid. It happened in a pretty public and crowded time of day at the school, meaning that it was at the end of the day when all the parents were picking up their kids after school. My mom watched it happen as she had pulled up just as it was happening. She got out and chased the kid off just as he was already finishing his batshit crazy tirade about how he thought I was going to steal his bike. This wasn't the crazy part. The crazy part was after the kid ran off. He hopped on his bike and started riding away. Another mom, I didn't know who she was because her kid wasn't in my grade, saw the fight and subsequently chased down the kid when he ran off, in front of tons of other moms and maybe a couple of dads and plenty of kids in the school. She tackled the kid down, picked him up by the collar of his shirt, and carried him into the school to confront the principal. Most badass mom I have ever known. And I never even got to learn her name. So, if anyone knows of a woman who lived in Lawton, Oklahoma in the late 90s and had a kid who went to Roosevelt Elementary, I want to thank her for what she did. The rest of that school year was awesome. And I'm pretty sure she may have nipped a bullying lifestyle for someone in the bud. Thanks badass mom. Late at night in a McDonald's in Nixon, man was angry because he did not get the right toppings on his burger. He threw a garbage can and started yelling at an employee who told him to back off before she went all Martin Luther King Jr. on his ass. He smeared the burger in her face. She said that kind of stuff happens all the time there. Shanghai Carrefour. A chubby Chinese woman vs tall Chinese woman, yelling at each other till they start to fight. It's funny when their husbands or whatever try to stop them because it's like 2 little monkeys trying to stop a fight between 2 tigers lol. I saw a full wedding taking place inside a Borders bookstore. They even invited customers who happened to be in the store to attend. Dude, I was wheezing from laughing so hard after reading that story. And I have great lungs. Craziest thing I ever saw. In Nick there was a bum, just sitting on the edge of a fountain, eating his skimpy bum sandwich. Then out of nowhere a dude in a suit straight up dive tackles this bum into the fountain. Like the dude in the suit was completely horizontal through the air. Then 2 other guys in suits jump into the fountain and help the other suit guy kick the crap out of him. They all ran off and someone called the cops. Also that day, a guy dressed like a Goomba from the live action Mario movie fighting a crack whore. In Boston, midday in the summer in a crowded area, a rather large woman was mounted on top of a slightly less large man who was lying down on the ground face up. His pants were around his ankles. They were belligerently yelling at each other to no end. I was there when a couple police arrived and basically had no idea how to approach the situation. It was funny as hell. My friend recently witnessed a guy walk into a McDonald's, slam his cheeseburger on the counter, and proceed to scream at the cashier about finding a hair in it. After rambling for about 3 minutes, my friend confronts him. "Hey man, it's not her fault. I think you should go." The man yells, "This is between me and McDonald's. Man, I'm done with McDonald's. Done. You people are disgusting. You know what I think of McDonald's." He then unwraps his burger and starts punching it with both fists. Rapid fire. Ketchup and mustard splattering all over the counter. Then, he fixed his tie and calmly walked out. Edit, grammar. 2 white trash heroes, 1 guy, 1 girl, driving down the highway in a small hatchback with a gigantic, homemade doghouse on the hood. The doghouse was so heavy that the front tires were rubbing the inside of the wheel well and so big that both of them were leaning out the windows so they could see ahead of them. They were also both smoking like there was no tomorrow. If only I'd had a camera or a video camera. You guys would have loved it. I was walking to my train, subway, with my friend. As we were talking, I turned to see a black midget in full-on cowboy attire with the longest dreadlocks I have ever seen. I then pointed out to my friend that it's one of those events that happen only once in a lifetime. 3 weeks later, I saw him during my walk to the train again. But this time, I made sure to capture him with my butterfly net and take him home. Every winter I go on a ski trip up north with my friend's family. One year on the drive up we drove into a whiteout blizzard while on the highway. Traffic went from 70 miles per hour to a near standstill in a few hundred feet. We were in the center of the 3 lanes and behind and to the left of us a huge Suburban came hurtling down the road. The driver clearly not paying attention. He notices the traffic stopping at the last second and in order to avoid slamming into the car ahead of him the guy has to swerve right across our lane in front of us, through the far right lane and off the road. He drives off the road, down the ditch and up the embankment in the other side. Then it got better. He made it to the top of the embankment and then turned back down. Drove back through the ditch, back up the shoulder and burst through a snowbank back onto the road. He cut back across all 3 lanes of traffic and into the spot he left from. When we passed by the car his wife was bawling in the passenger seat while he was laughing hysterically. Watching fireworks from the side of Citadel Hill in Halifax in the late 70s there was a pre-fireworks parachute jump. I forget what they were supposed to do on the way down. I distinctly remember watching as one of the little black dots just kept falling until he was hidden behind the trees. He was easily 2 miles away so we didn't hear the thump but it was clear what had happened. The fireworks went on as scheduled and the news that night confirmed that one of the parachutes had failed to open. Here's the kicker. The guy landed in a backyard in a pile of sods that were waiting to be put on the front lawn. He got up and walked away. Not in a straight line. I mean he was obviously impacted, sorry for the pun. Couldn't resist, by the event. But he was fine. Truth story. About 10 years ago I was with some friends on the Barcelona subway. I must have been late because the station was empty except for a group of 3 girls on the other side. And a drunk guy on the same side as we are. Out of the blue this guy starts shouting to the girls. They kinda looked like prostitutes. And they are shouting back at him. So apparently he does not like what he's hearing so jumps down to go across the tracks. Only to be met by the now shoe in hand group of girls. Before he can go up and avoid the very dangerous position he was in, the tracks, he got pounded in the head several times. He finally fought his way up. But our train arrived and we couldn't see the ending. Pretty intense. A few years ago while visiting Washington DC, I saw a guy walk up to another man with a backpack. He pulled a bottle of Febreze out and sprayed it. The other man took a deep sniff and handed him a fat roll of cash and received a few more bottles of Febreze. Pretty sure I witnessed some crazy drug deal. I one time saw a dude overdose on heroin crack coke in a public restroom, something with a needle. Then see another guy walk in and start hitting him, telling him to get up, of which then a cop came and told the guy to get the duck out, and when he didn't, arrested him. Turns out the dude took half the needles and was trying to keep it for himself. I was just standing there outside the bathrooms waiting for some friends when all this came down. When my friends arrived it was all over and gone and I was just confused as hell. This crazy thing happened to me when I was in Japan. I was at an internet cafe. And as I was going to my seat, being the nosy guy that I am, I was peeking into the other people's stalls to see what they were browsing. Anyways, the stall right beside me, I just barely glanced at, and I didn't see the screen. But I noticed some motion. As I sat down in my own stall, my curiosity began to grow. So, I decided to go casually get a magazine from the stand and take a second look. As I was walking back with my magazine, I looked into the booth beside me and saw a 20-ish-year-old girl watching les porn. With her legs open spread eagle masturbating as furiously as humanly possible. Classic Japan moment. In Jacksonville for New Year's, a random woman comes up to us at our house party, out 8, and asks if we've seen the Smoking Beaver show. We say no and she says we can watch her inhale from a pipe with her bev and then exhale it out. For $20 she dropped off right there and performed the trick. Still scarred.